Hey, all you rad dads out there.
Hey Greg, welcome to the Rad Dad Show. For all the Rad Dads out there, who are you?
Hey Christian, thanks for having me. My name's Greg Attonito. I am from New Jersey. I'm in a band called the Bouncing Souls as my claim to fame, I guess you'd say. I'm into some other stuff, and I'm also a dad.
You're a dad. How many kids?
I have one son. His name is Ever. He's 7 years old. He potentially could make an appearance at any moment. We'll see. He's
There,
around.
there we go. Okay, that's good. We had I had Greg Hetson on the show 2 days ago. He's down at the Punk Rock Museum with his daughter
Oh, cool.
Violet, and so we did a interview for the museum. Both of them on the show. It was pretty funny. So
Yeah,
we
good.
we welcome the kiddos on the show, and when I interviewed Jay Bentley from Bad Religion, his son Dragon was in the background causing havoc. And it was so
Part of the. I guess it should be part of the programming.
there we go for sure. Your second appearance. You're one of the only select few that have had two appearances on the Rad Dad show. So uh,
Cool.
let's ask you, what does a rad dad mean to you? Has that changed? Are you still a rad dad?
I believe so. I guess I've learned a few things since I last spoke to you. I think that's a big part of being a dad. Um, or being a rad dad. I think parenting is such a broad scope, and everyone has a different approach, but I think in the end everyone's trying for the same things. So to go deep right away, I guess you view your childhood as the idea of having a child, and then you're like, well, how would I do this? Like, take the good things, take the things that didn't work, and try to like make it into a new version of parenting that you kind of are essentially just figuring out from moment to moment. I think that's one of the things that, depending on your personality, you can be good at or not. I think some people have trouble with, you know, being that, and it's I think the tricky part of being a parent. You can kind of like plan, and you're going to decide things you want to do, and in the end, that a lot of that stuff goes out the window because stuff happens you don't expect, and that's where those moments are where you learn what you're made of. And I think I embrace that part of or try to, not always, I mean, be totally honest, like, you have your moments of it, that's what makes it rewarding. And just having a wonderful child in my life, and I love him so much, there's all that aspect of it, and enjoying um the relationship, and watch him grow is like, uh, again, I can't, don't have a lot of words for it. That's what songs are for. So I write songs. So,
There you go. Does having a kid has having a kid influenced your songwriting and
well, I actually have written my first, I mean, I guess probably since I've spoken to you, like, I guess, dad perspective songs, like, I don't like to get, I'm definitely a songwriter that, I like songs that leave a lot for room for interpretation, from your own personal experience. So I'm a very much a purveyor and enjoyer of music like that. So there, a lot of songs can be completely direct, completely literal, and a lot of times those work, but many times I say they don't work, like super literal songs. So again, that's just opinion. But yes, so I have written a couple that are very, dad related pretty directly, and yeah, there's no way around it. So yes, and I'm gonna be uh, recording. I recorded, actually gonna be recording one or two, but I also, this is, I mean, I guess this, I can dial this in. I recently wrote a song about my grandparents, so this is I guess this is related. um which it's like one of those things that, like, as a songwriter, I sort of like stare down the barrel of it occasionally for like the last 25, 30 years. It's just one of those daunting tasks. You're like, this was a big relationship, a big story of my life. And I was like, no, that's just too scary. I'm not going to do that. So I finally like sort of tackled it. And that was, again, as a, maybe it's part of, you see those things and then you want to sort of face those things. And it was a great experience. I wrote the song about my grandparents. I finished it, recorded it, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Nice. Looking forward to that. That's one of my favorite songs is that 10-foot pole song, Old Man. And really reminds me of my grandpa. I had a really strong relationship with my I'm Ukrainian, so we call him Guido. And
Cool.
my Baba. She's 92 years old, still living on her own. And I, text her every, 2 or 3 days. And so,
I
yeah.
think it's that she texts. I mean, my dad doesn't. He still does not have a smartphone, so that's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I kind of have to get a giggle in the fact that she's 92, still texted, and just what she's kind of seen in terms of her
Oh
lifetime.
yeah,
Sure,
that's amazing.
just wild to me. But yeah, it's also interesting too. Like I've kind of noticed, me being a dad, obviously I kind of like attuned maybe to some of the songs that singers and songwriters and bands kind of write around
Mhm.
what you call the dad influence song. And I've kind of noticed that, even with some of the guests, like, Chris from Propagandy, for example, there's a couple of songs
Mhm.
he kind of talks about his kids, and Dave Howe
Yeah,
had on the show, and one of his, I think, North Star, I think it's about his kids too and stuff. So
yeah,
it's just kind of a unique thing of these punk rockers, smash the state and the system or whatever, and kind of jokingly like that. And then it's kind of
yeah,
the once, and I love it though. It's great.
yeah. I think we're all growing up to some extent, one way or another, and I think us punk rockers like navigating our golden years here. Like again, you're still trying to figure out what does it look like for us. We've been smashing the state. Now we're having some kids and we're navigating it, and like it's kind of cool. Everyone's got their own version, and I think that's what's kind of beautiful about it. Yeah.
Yeah. We should do a Rad Dads compilation. That would
Oh,
that'd be a fun little record to put up.
yeah.
So you talked about, at the beginning too, you've learned a few things along the way. What what are some things that your son has taught you in the time that
Um,
he talks to you?
I think I think it's sort of when it's your child, you care so much, so you have to sort of like let the situation sometimes be what it is if you don't like it. I think that's without reacting in an extreme way. So like I think that might be to try to boil that down if it's simple enough. Like if I can make it even simpler, but it's about reacting to the moment when things are going in a way that you're like, this isn't cool, or you're not, he's not behaving in a way that I like or I think is okay. So I think I never cared about someone behaving in a bad way as much as I do my son. Of course, I'm not impacted the same way. Like even friends, family, behaving certain ways and stuff. You can kind of like I can be chill about it more than with my son. I feel that reaction becomes way stronger. So that is a challenge, and I think that really helps you grow, because if you keep meeting those moments, and there are moments that you grow, and if you navigate it right, we can all grow at the same time. And I think that's a I mean, that's the magic dust of parenting right there. And if you can do that together, and I think when we grew up in our generation, like I don't think people acknowledged as much, how a parent is growing with the child. Like it's always just about, oh, we just we were just sort of conditioned to be like, parents know everything. adults know everything, and which they don't. They never did. And it's now that I'm in my 50s, I'm like, yeah, how did they put that veil over us, and it worked.
It did, yeah. I like reflect back at what I'm like, my age now. It's like, holy cow. I'm like, yeah, they had no idea what they were doing.
Right, but they really were faking it, faking it till they make it. So I give them credit for that too, all that, but yeah, so I think being open about that, and I'm open about that with my son, and I'm open about it when I'm frustrated, and learning to kind of like how to manage that, let him know I'm frustrated without losing control because of the situation, and whatnot. I think that's again, skills you're kind of like developing in the moment.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I understand that too. I'm an assistant principal at a junior high school. My son's grade eight is 13, and
Uh-huh.
oldest is 13, and
Mm-hmm.
just yeah, just definitely being also like on that kind of idea of being grateful. I tend to deal with a lot of behavioral issues, and coming
Yeah.
home and like, oh yeah, you're actually a pretty good kid.
Right. So yeah, that's probably your world, your day-to-day world. You've got to keep that steady head under some strange situations, I'm sure.
Oh, totally. You're dealing with parents too, right? Parents. Yeah. Anyways, it's just yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Is there a lesson then, along that theme? Is there a lesson that you learned the kind of the hard way being a parent?
Um, well, I mean, I have to give a ton of credit to my wife, Shanti. Because she's she's definitely the rock, So I I've learned from her, I think it in that regard, and we also acknowledge the importance of two parents being different. Like we have a different relationship, and we sort of have different styles. So I think that's also a dynamic that's important to acknowledge. Like, um, but I've certainly, seen she's been sort of a model for me because she's got that steady mom power, and I'm a little bit more like of a maniac, to be totally honest. Um, but um, sometimes you need a little bit of a maniac. So it's not it depends on how you manage it, and like have that energy is important for him too. In some instances, as long as it doesn't tip into like out of control energy, and that's the sort of the line I'm always walking. But again, my son is really he's pretty fantastic, and there isn't any kind of major issues. And I usually have to zoom out when I get a little upset. I'm like, it's usually over, not much, So I'm like, I gotta let the little things slide. It's that caring. It's that like I'm overwhelmed with how much I'm like care about this. So I gotta like let the moment be. It's just gonna be fine because but that's a great thing. It's such an amazing thing, especially being like smash the steak guy. Like FTW, it's wonderful to care about someone that much.
Yeah.
I think that aspect of parenting, again, if I think of myself as I was before I was a parent and as I am now, like the transformative thing is just so unexplainable. I couldn't imagine, you know, not having experienced this in life. I would have felt like knowing what I know now, um, I wouldn't miss it for the world. Although I spent most of my life like not really having too much of a motivation to be a parent. So that's what's interesting. Shanti and I both, we were married for 16 years before we had our son.
Oh, wow.
So not motivated at all. Both of us, we were like, and I think again, just my own version of it. Shanti and I really worked on our relationship too for many, many years, and we made that work. And again, I think that's really important. I wouldn't have been, I think I'm doing an okay job now as a parent. I would not have done a good job, I don't think, in my 20s, maybe slightly better in my 30s, but still, I was just traveling all the time. So maybe just by pure presence, I wouldn't have been there. And I think that would have stressed me out because I wouldn't have been able to enjoy completely being on tour. And then I wouldn't be probably as present when I'm there, because that's a lot of what I dealt with in those early years of touring, where I was just touring like 9-10 months out of a year, for years. So obviously I've seen that, and as I was out there on the road, I saw people who had kids, and I just imagine how tough it must have been, because it was hard enough to just be married.
Yeah, for sure.
To
The
make it and not, just be like, we're on the phone. This is what we do. We're just on the phone. That's our relationship, and that was some tough trials to get through. So I feel like I lost my what point I was trying to make, or even if there was a point to make. But
Oh, good. I'll just kind of bring it down. I'll kind of wrap it like so now that
yeah,
you talk about
yeah,
kind of this evolution of you,
yeah.
relationship, dad, that transformation kind of piece that happened. I'll tie
Mhm.
it to like I guess what you're doing now and touring and stuff. So are you guys cognizant of as a band? We've had Brian on the show, you on the show, and is that something you're cognizant that you have kids and it's like, okay, we're only going to tour this much or
Yeah, so I'll bring it back to what I've been uh, in the Bouncing Souls. Essentially, like, we grew up together. Like, me, Brian, and Pete, grew up 2-3 miles from each other in New Jersey. So we were starting to play in the band together at 17, 16, 17. And we sort of, obviously we were hardwired for this. Like, we instantly were like, not instantly, like, we knew each other from around town. We played soccer together. But as soon as, like, we started playing together, we've instantly had a vision that we're like, we want to do this. We want to keep doing this. And it's funny because we've grown up together. We've grown up, we've been in business together, we create music together. It was the first version of like a real committed relationship. Like, I did that for 10 some odd years before I got married. So it was my first marriage, you know. So my first marriage is still going, you know. And my marriage with Shanti obviously was the next level experience. It was like a real marriage, But it's the same. There's a lot of the same stuff, You're just like, you got to communicate. You got to like care about what everybody else is doing and what their lives, what's happening in their lives, what's happening inside of them, and as they're experiencing. So somehow, somehow, all of our different manias seem to we were able to always reel it back in between the three or four of us. And George has been with us for the longest now as the drummer. I think he's beat out Shal, who was with us for 10 years, and Michael, who's with us for 13. I think George has now been for 13 plus or something. But luckily, again, we're this crazy anomaly. Like, bands break up. Like, bands don't stay together for 35 years, pretty much active the entire time. We've had our third drummer, but it's still me, Pete, and Brian. So amazingly, again, I'm try to reel this back in. We ended up having kids around the same time, and I guess that was not really planned. I think it just sort of happened. Like, Pete's son is 5 months younger than ever, which is just sort of happened. Um, and Brian's two girls, they're adopted, are just 2 years. They came along about a year and a half, 2 years. So we're all very much on the same page about how much we want to tour, and we want to share our experiences with our children. So I brought Ever came to. We did 2 festival shows in the UK last year, and he came along, and it was a blast. He rode on the tour bus. The tour bus was on fire. We all had to get out of the tour bus, and then another, all of us were standing outside the smoking tour bus at 6 a.m, and then another tour bus came, and he got on that tour bus, and we're like, "Whoa, cool!" I'm like, "All right, he's experienced in 2 days. You're getting the madness of tour." And then one day was sunny. The first day was sunny and wonderful in London. The next day, the tour bus burned, and then we were out in the rain in Leeds. And it was like, okay, you're getting all of it in 2 days. You're getting the ups and the highs and lows of being on tour. So yes, that stuff of very much important to me that I can share. Again, I think that's a primal thing as a parent. You want to share what you know, and what your experience as best you can with your child, and they're just going to take what they can, or what's right for them, and what works for them, and go with it. So yeah, that's important, and we all share that in the band. I think time at home is super important, so we all are on the same page with that, and then including it, all the kids as sort of like our family. We're all family.
That's cool. That's like, yeah, like I have a band with the Rad Dad stuff. We did an event about 5 years ago. A lot of my friends are musicians, and I said, let's do this like dad religion thing. So let's do it like a bad religion, punk show
Okay.
for kids, and all the
uh,
guys were on board. It's supposed to be kind of a one-off, and here we are, I think 5 or 6 years later, and we're still kind of doing shows, and it
yeah.
definitely taught me a lot. Like, a lot of them have been in bands and I haven't, and it's just seeing that dynamic for sure. It's like, okay, we can't jam today because you got this, and it's being just a kind of a fun cover band in Edmonton. I
Hmm.
can't imagine, bands like you guys or Bad Religion or No Effects. A lot of those guys have kids too, and just it's always funny to me to read comments about people who say, "Oh, why are they breaking up?" or "Why are they canceling this?" It's like you have no idea. Like,
Yeah.
really,
How did we
narrow
not?
minded.
How do we even, the moving parts are crazy, how it works out. I'm very grateful that somehow out. Yeah.
Yeah, so thanks for providing that music, I guess. Here we are 35 plus years.
Yeah.
Why don't we go into that? Like, let's transition into the what you're doing and stuff, and
Yeah.
the fact to coming
Well,
to Edmonton and things
as
like
far
that.
as the Souls, we just came off a really awesome couple of weeks. We did a couple of runs with H2O, and they were fantastic. We just had a great time with those guys. We haven't really hung out with them much for a long time, so we had a blast. We have a new single, and we have a few new other songs that are coming out later this year, a single, and then an album next year is the plan. Again, I'm recording some stuff, some solo stuff, and I'm coming up to Edmonton in about 2 weeks ish, in Calgary, and doing a couple shows up there, some solo shows.
Nice. What could we expect? Your stuff, soul stuff, everything.
Yeah, I aim to please. I know everybody is. I'm coming out there with a few Souls hits for sure. I will not. I'll do my best. I do not have my buds with me. It's not going to be full rock volume, but I'll give the heart and soul of a couple Souls tunes, for sure. And then I use this as an opportunity for me to stretch out too, and hopefully, anyone who's going to show up, I think, is going to know there's going to be some of that, a little storytelling, a couple of like original, unreleased tunes, couple of influential cover tunes in there for fun, because that's again my opportunity to sort of share that stuff, and hopefully, just a good time.
Sweet. Looking forward to it. Let's wrap it up there. Actually any play date songs in that list?
No, but I'm willing to, if I got any, I've done that actually, and it's, again, also what I also enjoy about the solo shows is the spontaneity, like going off the set list, like that could happen.
Ooh, okay, there we go. Okay, any last words for any of the Rad Dads out there, Greg?
I think we're all doing great out there. I'm proud of us, parenting is just like a journey that you gotta like be okay with yourself. You gotta do the best you can, and then just be okay with it and settle into doing the best that you can, and it's okay. And you're awesome, and you're rad.